So hello guys, welcome in this video. It's a recap of chapter 3. Let's immediately dig in. If you want, you can write and make sure you pause the video when you think it's necessary. I will ask some questions in between. Pause the video and try to answer the question on your own. So there are many ways to factorize. In class, we talked about specifically 3 different methods. So let's dig in when it comes to the factorizing. This part is not in the book, but it's about something you did previous year. We didn't do because of time. Now, if you, for example, have this, you can factorize by taking out the x, the factor, and then place within the brackets the rest, the terms that are left. Because if we simplify, that's the word that we look for, we would get x squared plus 5x. Yeah, and of course, if you, for example, over here, you would have 10x. You also make sure the number, they have 5 as a highest common factor. You place that one in front, and then the 2 goes here, and then over here you get then 1. Yeah, so this is one way of factorizing, method 1, using the HCF method. I call it the highest common factor method. Then the second way of factorizing is when you have, for example, this. Let's see, let's immediately grab a difficult one. No, let's take it easy. So when you have x squared plus 5x minus 6 is 0, is nothing because we're just factorizing, excuse me. When you have this, you can use what we used in class, the ABC method, or we call it 2-bracket method. So you remember that this is like 1 bracket, 2 brackets. So what you have to do is you make sure that over here the plus 5 is the addition of the 2 numbers that will go here and here, and this, the minus 6, is the multiplication. Yeah, so you think about it, you can make a list, use separate paper, whatever. You think about it and you realize 3 and 2 will become 5. But I must have, when I multiply it, I must have minus 6. But when I add it, I must have 5. So 3 and 2, what can we do with that? Is that possible? So you think, can we ever get minus 6? Let me just write it down. So when you multiply, you want to have minus 6. So you must have this combination or this combination. In any case, we will never get positive 5. So this is the wrong combination. So you think again, and you realize, oh, 6 times 1. Okay, that is something. So minus 6 times 1 will become minus 6, and minus 1 times 6 will also become minus 6. But which combination, when you add, will give you the plus 5? It's this combination, and that's how you realize it's x minus 1 and x plus 6. Yeah, so this is the second way of factorizing. Then there is one more, and that's this method. This one is the most difficult one. It is when we talk about special binomials. You must recognize them. So for example, the special binomial x squared minus 9, and it's asked just factorize this. When you see this, you have the x squared and the number, you must think of the special binomial. Yeah, you can use then x plus 3 times x minus 3. This is factorized because x times x is x squared, and what will happen here, because of the plus and the minus, the second term will disappear. This second term that would come over here would disappear, and then eventually 3 times minus 3 is minus 9. Now this one, it's okay if you don't see it at once. We're gonna look at it later when we are gonna solve. Solving is something else. We're gonna look at it in a second. Yeah, so these are actually the 2 main methods of factorizing that you can use. Now, what makes it so difficult? Let's go to the solving. When you have, for example, 3x squared plus 15x minus 18 equals 0 or equals something, that's when you have an equation. Yeah, so this is an equation. That means we can solve now. We can find a solution for x in such a way that we get 0. Yeah, keep in mind that these are all quadratic formulas, or originate from quadratic formulas. So now to solve this, we have to use a way of factorizing. You might see that it's this one, the ABC method. You think and you realize, I can't do this yet because of the number in the front. Since we're solving, we are allowed to divide by 3. Factorizing, not. You cannot change it. But here we are solving, we're looking for solutions, we can divide by 3. Divide everything by 3, and then eventually you get this. And then because of this example, we know we get x minus 1, x plus 6 equals 0. And then here it comes. If this part is 0, we're good, because then we get 0. It doesn't matter what x over here will be. So if x minus 1 is 0, or if the x plus 6 is 0. This is balance method, back to previous year. What should x be? Well, bring minus 1 to the right hand side, or think logically, x has to be 1 because 1 minus 1 is 0. And over here, x has to be minus 6. So these are the solutions in such a way that if x is 1, we would get 0, or if x is minus 6, we would get 0. We used the factorizing method, the ABC method. Well, let's quickly go here. We call, let's say, what's in front of the x square. It's a 1 in this case. We call that the A. What's in front of the x is called the B. And the number here, including the symbol, so minus 6, is called the C. So that's why we call it the ABC method. Over here, we have only the A, and this is the B. So when you have an A and the B, that's when you use the highest common factor method. Yeah, and in the last one, we have the A, because remember the A is 1, there's a 1 in the front, and we have the C. So this last method we can call AC method. I call it the special binomial method, but fair enough. Now, this method, like I said, it's pretty hard to recognize. It's okay if you can't recognize, because when you're gonna solve, it's important that you see this. So look at this. For example, x squared minus 4. Yeah, simple example, equals 0. You can solve it using this method, realizing this is 2, this is minus 2. But if you don't see it, that's okay. You can bring this number over to the right-hand side. So you get x squared is 4. And then you got to think, since this is a positive number, we have two solutions. We have x is the square root of 4, which is 2, or x is the negative square root of 4. Make sure the negative is not underneath the square root, since that's not possible. You get minus 2. So when this number over here, which is the C, like we discussed over here, when it's more than 0, you have two solutions. In this case, 2 minus 2. Now let's take another example. Let's look at this one. X minus 2 squared is 36. Now the right hand side, it does not equal 0, but that's okay because we can work with this. We have to the power of 2 over there. We want to get rid of it. So what we do is we take immediately the square root on the left hand side and the square root on the right hand side. Square root means I get left with x minus 2 is square root 6, or there's a second solution, x minus 2 is negative 6. And then you can continue. Eventually you get x is minus 4, and over here x is 8. But what we did here, once again, this c, it's more than 0, so we have two solutions. Now, what will you get? If, for example, let's say minus 36, over here we also have minus 36. Let's solve this one. What would you do with the minus 36 first? bring it over. Very good, you get 0. Hey, our C, in this case, is exactly 0. So we have one solution. That means x can only be 0 in order for my final answer to be 0. So one solution. Now you can guess already, when will you have no solutions? Let me take another example. What about this one? What would you do first? Make some space over here. Balance method, sure, bring it over. You bring this over. I took a wrong example. Let me change it a bit. Let me make 37 out of it. If you bring this over, you get x squared is -1. And what's the problem here? Can you take the square root on the left on both sides? No, because the c is less than 0. So we have no solutions at all. We cannot continue. So this is about the solving, factorizing this part. This is 3.1. Yeah, so let me write it. 3.1. This is what we actually did. Yeah, we didn't even approach the most difficult exercises. But if you want to practice these, I advise you now, stop with the video, don't continue, and work on 7, D, E, and F. So you can really practice that solving the last part that we did, the 3 ways. All right? Now, when you're done with that, that's great. Let's go to completing the square. Now, completing the square, besides these methods of factorizing and solving, is another method. Let's say that you have, I have to come up immediately while I'm working with you with an example. So x squared plus 6x. If we would factorize, we would take the x in the front, and we eventually would get this. So factorize, if this was the question, yeah, we would just get x over here, x plus 6, and then we are done. But now the question is not factorize, the question is complete the square. Now, what you have to think about is I am looking for my half of this number, the half of it, yeah. If I take half of it, when I add it, because 3 plus 3 makes 6, I will get the 6x. Now, you know that, let's say x plus 3 times x plus 3 is the same as x plus 3 to the power of 2. We know that. Now, and if we indeed would simplify, you would get x squared, yeah, I'm skipping the intermediate, plus 6x plus 3 times 3 is 9. So what we see, it looks almost the same, but the 9 is bothering me. How can I get rid of the 9 over here? Well, I must find a way to get over here minus 9. So what do I need to do? I want this, but then with the minus 9 in the back. So this here is called completing the square. So x squared plus 6x, we can write using completing the square, x plus 3 to the power of 2 minus the 9, minus this 9 that is bothering us to get exactly the same. So you always take half of this number and then you subtract the square of it. This is a binomial. Yeah, this is for the binomial. Let's try the trinomial now. Let's keep this one close. So let's say I have the following trinomial. X squared plus 6x plus 8. Now, I know, all right, I know already that I have x plus 3 squared. I know that this would give me, this is a thinking cloud, this would give me x squared plus 6x plus the 9. I know to get only the 6x, I know that I must subtract the 9. So I must do minus 9. So I will over here also do minus 9. But then I get only this. So then I think I want to have the 8 there. So once again, I have to add the 8. So with colors, this plus 8 just goes behind it. Since this 9 over here, you want to get rid of that 9, you have to do the subtraction over there. And actually, let me use another color. This over here, x plus 3 squared, is x squared plus the 6x plus the 9. Yeah, so that's important to remember. And then we can say that the x squared plus the 6x in blue is the same as this part, x plus 3 squared minus 9. So I hope it makes a bit of sense. And this is a trinomial. Yeah, so completing the square, it's very doable and very easy. It just takes some time to practice. So what can you do now? Make this exercise. Pause the video, make some exercises. Please make 19. Also practice with with fractions and make sure that you don't use the calculator. It's not needed. Yeah. So for example, 19D, make it first on your own and then you come back. All right, I really hope you tried it. So we talked about this. We take half. So we take half of the 7, which is 3.5. So what I take is x. It is negative, so I have to make sure minus 3.5, closing bracket, to the power of 2. Then eventually I am left with a rest. I know that I will get my minus 7x, but I still get a number in the back. So I think, okay, what is my minus 3.5 times minus 3.5? I don't need a calculator. I'm just going to calculate it fractions. So what I do is minus 7 out of 2 times minus 7 out of 2. This will become 49. 2 times 2 is 4. So eventually I need to make sure that I get rid of the 49 out of 4. So I subtract 49 out of 4, because then I know I get this part only. Hey, I still need my plus 8. So I just add plus 8. Now, we need to simplify, of course. Make sure that this improper fraction is a mixed number. Let me see, 10, 11, 12 times. So 12, 1/4 plus 8. We can still add some like terms here. And then eventually we get a mini blackout over here, but minus 4, 1/4. I hope I did it right. Yeah. So this is completing the square. Okay, when you're done with that, that's great. We go to quadratic functions. What's the relationship between quadratic functions and what we actually do here? Now, we have the quadratic function fx, generic form, ax squared plus bx plus c. You've seen this form 1,000 times, guys. But now we can put a relationship to it. So the book also says, hey, let's say if the a is less than 0, yeah, you have a, we call it frowny, but now we can use a more mathematical word, concave down. When the a is more than 0, we have a smiley, concave up. Those are the terms that they use this year. Now, examples are this one. Let's say fx is 2x squared minus 5x plus 8. You look at the 2, the a is more than 0, so I know I have a concave up formula. When I'm gonna draw it, I know, hey, I will have a parabola looking like this. Now, before you made a table with 7 points, but now you're gonna learn something else. You're gonna find, eventually, the top of the parabola, and with that top, you must know then how to draw the parabola. So this is 3.3 and 3.4 at once. Now, to make sure that you understand this, I will not do this with you, but please calculate the value function of 4 and calculate the value function of -6, just to see if you get that. Yeah, you can use the calculator, but write it down. Yeah, and think about, hey, what happens when you insert a negative number in a quadratic formula? Now, if you did that, that's great, perfect. We can look at something else. So, for example, let me just get a new page. So this is a function, quadratic function. You already know, okay, a is more than 0. So what type of parabola do we have? I feel like Dora, by the way, but very good. It is already a smiley, a concave up. And one thing that I will share with you, but not now, later. Let me think of it. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, so something like this. Now, they also ask you, this is, by the way, 30A, B, and C. They also ask you in this exercise, show that the value function of -4 is indeed the value function of 0. So the outcome. And you can check it by doing 1/2 times -4 to the power of 2 plus 2 times -4 plus 1. And you can check by doing 1/2 times 0 to the power of 2 plus 2 times 0 plus 1. And if you do that correctly on the calculator or not, you will get for both 1. So it's true. It's true that the outcomes are both 1. So that means that my sketch is horrible. That's one thing. But that means that over here, for -4, we have for y, over here, the y coordinate -1. Sorry, positive 1. My apologies. Positive 1. And over here, for 0, we also have positive 1. So now I can correct my parabola. It's going to be better looking. Probably it will look like something like this. Yeah? So over here, we have the y coordinates of 1. So for 0, 1. So probably it will be looking like this. This is a horrible sketch, the blue one. Now, where's the top? Obviously, it's exactly in the middle between -4 and 0. Since these are easy numbers, you can just say, hey, it's at -2, because that's exactly in the middle. But what can you always do after checking that it gives the same y? You can add, just like your marks in Magister, add -4 plus 0 and divide that by 2. Then you eventually get -2. So the third x, I call it the x coordinate of my top of my third x, is -2. And how can you get the y third x? Think logically, how can you get a y coordinate if you have the x? You insert it in your formula. So once again, you do 1/2 times -2 squared plus 2 times -2 plus 1. We calculate, over here we get 2 minus 4 plus 1. We get 2 minus 4 minus 2. I'm super slow with this, -1. So even my sketch, I can even make my sketch better. My sketch over here, we have -1, will then be more like this. Yeah? So the more you know, the more better you can sketch your parabola. So that's how you can find the top of your parabola using two coordinates. Using the fact that two coordinates have the same y. So you find the middle of it. Now, let me make another better sketch. So, if this is my coordinate plane, this is my parabola, we already know, hey, my A is more or less than 0. Less than 0, because it's concave down. We know that over here, point A and B, those are called A and B, or the x-interceptions. Over here we have the C, this is the y-intercept. And over here is my T, that's my top. Now, if you know what the A and B are, the x coordinates, you can get the top because that's exactly in the middle. But how can we get the y-intercept? The y-intercept means my x has to be 0. So I fill in value function 0. And in this case, let's say that this parabola is the generic form negative x squared minus x plus 12. Oh, my apologies, plus 12. I will find this filling in x is 0, but also realizing, somebody in class did realize that if you fill in x is 0, your answer will always be the C. So I already know it's gonna be 12. So I know my coordinate of my y-intercept is 0, 12. Now, how can we find those A and B's? Okay, we talked about it. And you have two ways of viewing this. You got this generic form, the ABC generic form, and we had another generic form. We have the generic form, let me write it down here, A, x minus d, x minus e. When you have this generic form, you can just read it off. It's the d and it's the e. So for example, it's not necessarily accurate, but let's say that this is 5 and this is let's say negative 4. Yeah, the formula would change to an A is 1, just creating something. Eventually you would get 1 x minus d, x minus 5, x, and then minus 4, so plus 4. Yeah, and 1, this could be 5, this could be anything, the A. Then my coordinates would be, hey, 5, 0, and minus 4, 0, since this one is positive. And then you would have minus 4, 0, hey, 5, 0. So you can here, with this generic form, read it. You don't need to calculate. Back to the ABC form over here. So we had fx minus x squared minus x plus 12. You need to solve. And this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis. Since we're looking for the x-interceptions, we know y is 0. We fill in for y 0. So we get an equation, 0 or 0 in the back, equals minus x squared minus x plus 12. This negative here is bothering us. Since we are solving, we can multiply times minus 1. We get 0 times minus 1 is 0. X squared plus x minus 12. We think ABC method, or do we need to complete the square? No, luckily we have the ABC method. That's always handy. So we think, let's see, what times what makes minus 12? We got 6 and 2, but we will never get 1 because there's a 1 over here that we don't write. So what are those numbers? Pause the video and think back for yourself. All right, positive 4 minus 3, x and x over here. And then eventually, I will continue over here. You get x plus 4 is 0, or x minus 3 is 0. Conclusion, x is negative 4, or x is positive 3. Hey, my coordinate is minus 4, 0, and b is 3, 0. Now, to end this video, how would you find the top? Remember, you got the x coordinates here of A and B. They give the same y. So how can you find the coordinates of t? Try that one yourself. And hereby, I want to end the video. There's one thing that we didn't discuss, and that is the formula on how to find the top of the parabola. when you don't have necessarily those two coordinates. Yeah, that's this formula that I'm talking about, minus b divided by 2a. And why I don't want to zoom in on that yet or too much is because this is applying. And you can only use it when you have the ABC form. And it's applying. It's literally asking yourself, what is the a over here? It's minus 1 because there's a minus in the front. What's the b over here? That is also minus 1. And then you actually fill it in. Yeah? So that's just using the formula that they gave you in the book. Only when you have the ABC variant. Yeah, so we have ABC variant. We got over here the DE variant. As you see, you cannot use the formula because there's no B in here. And during class, we will learn the last part, which is in 3.6. That is with P and Q inserted. That's this generic form. But the good thing is, you should recognize this generic form because it looks like this example that we did. We did something like this. X minus 36 squared and then plus a 5 is 0. How would you solve this? Now, this is it. I hope it helped you guys. If not, pause where you think is necessary. So what can you practice? I advise you to practice 49. Yeah, this is with the DE variation. And if you think, okay, that's not enough, I need to practice more, you can practice the question with the wall. So 46, that's with the ABC method of variation, I call it. And if you really want to see if you understand the chapter well, try 51. Try it. Yeah? Answers are open for you, and I wish you the best, guys.